Fake games are becoming one of the iGaming industry's fastest growing threats, raising serious questions around trust, regulation, and player safety. Today we're joined by James Elliott, founder of GameCheck, to unpack how fake games are infiltrating the market, why the industry is still struggling to tackle the problem, and how GameCheck is working to distinguish authentic games from fraudulent copies. From verification technology to the future of regulation, this is a conversation about transparency, accountability, and protecting players in an increasingly complex gaming space. James, welcome.
Hi, Cyril. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me today. I'm looking forward to telling everyone what I know about fake games and how we're trying to combat the problem.
James, what first drew your attention to the issue of fake games in the industry, and what led you to decide it was important enough to build GameCheck to address it?
Well, I used to work as the general counsel for a games production company called NetEnt. Many people will have heard of it. It's based in Sweden. They're very proud of their games. They used to develop some of the biggest, the biggest titles like Gonzo's Quest and Starburst. And one of my jobs when I was at NetEnt was to try and enforce against people that were copying our games. By my own training, I'm an IP lawyer. I'm an intellectual property lawyer, and so one of the things I would do would be try and identify where our games were being copied, and effectively bring legal actions against the people that were copying the games and try and reduce that problem. It was one of the day-to-day things I was doing, and what I realized was that the way that we were doing it, which was by issuing legal proceedings against companies that you could sometimes not always trace, you wouldn't know where they were. They'd be in remote parts of the world where you couldn't always, access them, send letters to them, and take them to court. So I figured there would be another way of doing this, and this is why I came about with GameCheck. That's what I'm here to tell you about today.
And for those who may not be familiar, what differentiates a fake game from a legitimate one, and how can these differences impact player outcomes?
So the real ones are the ones that are made by the manufacturer. I suppose I think the best analogy I can tell you is if you go into your department store in Paris and you Galerie Lafayette, for example, and you buy your Louis Vuitton handbag, you know that's the real bag. If you're walking along the beach one day in Marbella and someone offers you that same handbag for 25 euros, you suspect it's probably not the real thing. And that's the analogy I like to draw. The point we have is that real games are out there on the internet, and because it's content, because it's music, because it's images, because it's software, it is possible to copy, and actually it's becoming more easy for people to copy now. And the way that they've now become more available, the danger is that they're not actually the same thing. So in the same way as we look at your handbag analogy, you will find that the handbag won't last the same amount of time, it won't be made of the same materials, and it won't give you the same experience of pleasure that you would have if you had the real thing. So that's why we're here to work with the game providers and identify where the genuine ones are, the ones that are made by the actual factory, and then identify the ones where the fakes are, so that people know that these are these are the ones they shouldn't be playing. Now, it's not actually as easy as saying, okay, I know the ones from the department store are the genuine ones. I know the ones from the guy on the beach are not the genuine ones, because the internet is, we're playing on very different types of casino. Players will look at depending which country you're on, what casinos are available to them. So it's not so easy for people to be able to distinguish in the same way as I described before.
What do you think the industry is still getting wrong when it comes to tackling fake games, and how are you approaching the problem differently?
I think the industry is trying what they have to try. I mean, as a lawyer, you have to go out and you have to tell people, you have to send what's called a cease and desist. You have to serve notices on the people that are offering the fake games, if you can find them. Now, that is a very time-consuming, expensive, and sometimes frustrating process, because people can, if you go after these game producers, you'll find that they may stop in under one name and reappear under another name the next day. So I wouldn't say they're getting it wrong, but what we're doing is we're trying to turn that whole model on its head, and rather than go after people by means of litigation and by means of suing them, we're trying to just make the consumer community much more aware of where the fakes are available. And so the consumer community will be able to say, okay, before I make my deposit, before I want to I want to go into a casino and spend my money, I want to check that the games on that site are the real thing. And so what we've done is we've created a database of, I think it's around 56,000 domain names now, all gaming sites that we have checked, and we can verify whether the games are on there, whether any fakes have been found on those sites. So if a consumer comes to our website and goes to gamecheck.com, they put the URL into the search bar and they find that we've searched that site, then we'll tell them whether the games are there, and they really shouldn't be playing their money on sites that have got fake games. If it's a site that we've identified as having genuine games, that's great. They can go and play on that site. And if it's a site that we haven't researched yet, there's also a third option where people can ask us to go off and do the research for them, and we'll then identify and add it to our database. So that's the beauty of what we try and do.
Absolutely. Can you walk us through the verification process from a player's request to the final real game or fake game classification?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. Now, the most important part of what we do is we don't take judgments on behalf of game providers. We collaborate with game providers. We effectively, if someone wants us to go and research a URL, we will go and play sessions on that particular site from anywhere in the world, and we will then be able to see where the games are being served from. Now, generally speaking, we will then go back to the game provider themselves and say, look, these are games that we think may not be yours, maybe not the genuine article. Can you tell us whether they are genuine or not? And then we'll be able to get that information and plug that back into our database. So the experience is two ways, effectively. It's the consumer coming to us, the player coming to us and saying, can you check these games for us? We'll then make sure whether we've investigated that site before. And if we haven't investigated that site, we'll get the game providers themselves, the ones that we collaborate with, to tell us whether they are or not. And the beauty of that is that we're gathering information from all of our partner game providers. We've got various, and we're sharing the information. If we know that one game provider has got people faking their games in one place, it's likely they're going to be faking other people's games as well. And so we're therefore aggregating all of that research information that we have to make our database even more rich. So as I think I said before, there's 56,000 domain names on the site. More or less, we've found about 5,000 already that have got fakes on them. So it's one of those things that it is a problem. We're looking to make people more aware of it.
And talking about awareness, how do you collaborate with game providers to verify authenticity, and what makes this approach more reliable than existing industry solutions?
So yeah, we have partnerships with some of the biggest game providers. I mean, to name some for you, we work with Evolution, we work with Pragmatic, we work with Push, work with Blueprint, and we're working with Scribe. So as you can imagine, those are very, very successful game providers. And what we do is we get the information that they have and where they think the sites are offering their fake games. We aggregate that with the information that we get with others. And then the game providers themselves have got ability to access our researchers, and we'll say, okay, we found the following batch of sites that we think may be fake. Can you verify if they're genuine or not? Once we have that information, we can then use the certain unique elements of the sites that they've found, and that will then open up more doors for us to be able to find more sites that we think might have fakes on them. So yeah, it's generally a question of aggregating our information, combining that with what our investigators are doing, and making it a much more rich database so that the consumers can benefit.
James, I have one last question for you. How do you see regulation around fake games evolving in the coming years? And what changes do you think are needed to better protect players and support operators?
So regulation varies depending on which country you're in. As you know, some countries are much more regulated, some I would say even too regulated, and others haven't regulated at all. So I think from my perspective, it depends which country you're looking at. One of the things that no regulators have really tackled at the moment is the issue of fake games. And look, GameCheck's here to solve that problem. From a responsible, there are various different elements of regulation, as we know. There's sort of responsible gambling, there's anti-money laundering, there's there's all these different these pieces that that are there to protect the consumer. But the issue of fake games is one that we want to be able to highlight and make sure that we have that solution. So from my perspective, it's to make sure that even outside of what the regulation does, it's making sure that GameCheck is visible. People know we exist, and people always come to our site to check the URL of the games of the sites they want to play before they part with their money. And that's really what we're here to do.
James Elliott, you're the founder of GameCheck. Thank you again for taking time today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.